Hey, it's BT with Tales from a Gemini. My guest today is comedian Michael Malone. He has a new special called Wait and See, and I mean, it's comedy stripped down to the bare soul, and he talks about depression and dealing with the death and loss and I mean, honestly, it hit me harder than I thought it was going to. I think you're gonna like this. I think you're gonna like this episode. This is really deep and it's really emotional. And I mean, it might be one of my favorite episodes ever. So check it out, Mike Malone. Yeah. Woo. Can't wait for this, man. It's that reunited with an old friend, man. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Hit it, boys. Hey, it's Big T with Tales from a Gemini, man. Today, I can't wait to get to my guest today. I was in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm thinking I'm king shit, doing my comedy, thinking, yeah, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to blow these people out. And I got this feature act. Hey, how you doing, man? What's your name? Michael Malone. Nice to meet you, Mike Malone. And this kid goes up and he slaughters them. I mean, to the point of I had to call the police and they'd get the yellow tape out because he murdered that crowd. And I was like, I got to follow this shit all week. Now, fast forward, I don't know how many years later, this guy, man, released a special and I'm watching it. And this shit hit so deep that I had to pause it and I had to do one of those kind of, And I said, okay. And then I went back in, I watched it, and I was like, God damn it, Mike. And I'm sitting there going, okay. I don't want to think about this shit. And I was like, okay, I think that's a sign of greatness. My guest today is Michael Malone. I was watching this special, Wait and See, and man, if there's ever the blueprint for comedy, I remember watching Louis C.K. one time, and he goes, okay, you have this, here's your act, and you go deeper, and then you go deeper, and then you go deeper. And it's exactly what you did with this. You took, from your last special, Laugh After Death, you took that one,
yeah,
and you, with Wait and See, God damn, that's 28 minutes of just funny, but it's raw. It reminded me of Dave Chappelle's The Bird Revelation when he's in the little room at the Laugh Factory. I mean, at the Comedy Store, and it's just and to me personally, okay, when you come out and you can and the big crowd and everything, that's great. But to me, I like when everything's scaled down, man, and you're just bearing your soul with the audience, and you're just giving it to them. And okay, if they laugh, it's great, but I got to get this shit off my soul. And that's, to me, what Wait and See is about. When this special comes out, I want you guys to watch this. And I think if you're of a certain age, you have a certain age, I think if you've gone through anything in life and you watch, this is going to hit you. It's going to, like I said last night, it's going to stir your soul because that's what it did to me. I was like, God damn, Mike. Fucking beautiful. Mike Malone, how you doing, brother?
Thank you so much. What a great intro. I don't think I've ever
It's the truth.
That was incredible. I'm so glad you liked it. And yeah, and you're right. I mean, I find that that silence, that uncomfortability, that's where all the good stuff is. Yeah, man, thank you so much. I'm so glad you liked it.
No,
it's so good to see you. Holy shit.
I didn't like it. I loved it. I didn't like it. I fucking loved it is what I did. I didn't like is what you do a little puppy on the sidewalk. Oh, I like that little puppy. Love is like, come here, little puppy, get my truck and shut the fuck up. I mean, so I loved it. Loved it. God
thank
damn.
You so much.
You made that step up from what we call, to like greatness to the point. When you do shit like that, it's great because it's a bearing of the soul. There's nothing on that somebody can hack. Somebody can take on the road. Okay, I'm gonna take this, and no,
right.
It's yours, and it's just fuck, man. How long did it take you to get to that point where you trusted yourself in front of an audience?
Oh man, it's been a while, and I discovered that when I was working on the last special, Laugh After Death, and there's a closing piece in there that's about 15 or 20 minutes long, and
yes.
It's all about losing my parents and going to therapy for the first time, and all these kind of darker issues. And even at one point in the crowd or in the special, I talk about how much that I hated the crowd and I was mad at them, and while I was grieving and stuff like that. And so I was opening up and I was being very honest in a way that I'd never done before. And what I found was that I was connecting with an audience in a way that I had never before. And I talk about this a lot, but the advice that I got from Leo Flowers, who's a great comic.
Yes.
I don't know if you know Leo or not, but he's incredible. And Leo told me, he goes, you need to stop worrying about killing and start connecting. And he shared, he said open micers kill.
Yes.
But if you can connect with an audience, that's when you're really doing something. And so I took that advice mixed with what Ricardo Flanagan, another good friend of mine,
my God.
told me,
yes.
Rest in peace. I fucking love Ricardo. He was incredible. And,
yes.
We used to talk till 3 or 4 in the morning, about this and that and comedy. And at the time, I wasn't sharing any of that on stage. And he told me, I'll never forget this. We're in my kitchen, a little studio apartment in Hollywood, and we're talking shop. It's like 3 a.m. And he goes, all that stuff that you're not saying, that's what they want to hear. And man, that mixed with the advice I had from Leo changed everything for me. And I started opening up and being more honest about my grief and depression and my journey and because I was always a very personal comic. All of my jokes and stuff like that before have always been about my family, about my life and this and that. Because that you hit it on the head. The last thing you want to do is go to a club. You've got 15 killer minutes on Burger King. And then the guy in front of you is like, let me tell you about Burger King. You're like, fuck. So I've always kept it very personal and in that regard. So I don't have to worry about, this guy's not going to do jokes about his mother being a vampire. I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, it's always been very personal for me, but it was taking that to the next level and sharing that stuff that I thought that only I was feeling. And when I started sharing it, I realized that a lot more people felt that way or were going through something that nobody was really talking about.
But how did you trust yourself to make that walk? I mean, because that's the battle. I think a lot of comics, and it's funny because you can get two different camps. There's comics like me who I fucking love when y'all do that because I don't trust myself to do it. I mean, in the open mic, yeah. But when it's like, on a Friday night, second show, it's like, okay, do I trust myself to take that walk of, okay, I'm going to get away from all this. Let me tell you my fucking soul, how I'm afraid of this, or how when I grew up, these people intimidated me and that's how the person I am today. Or I just did the old second job. How did you trust yourself to get to that point where you bared your soul, but you made it funny without preaching?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know what it goes back to a little bit of sugar makes the medicine go down, And so what I would try to do would be I would ride it almost like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right. So we're having fun where it's a good time. And then I punch you in your fucking gut and you feel it. And then before you know it, before you can think about it too much, we're having fun again and it's all good. And, there's jokes and then I'm punching your fucking gut again. Yeah. And I felt like that was the formula that I have not only with stand up now, but with, when I was writing film and my book, Dead Serious, all those stories kind of ended up kind of in that formula where we're having fun and it's a good time. And then I punch in your fucking gut and make you feel something. And then we're having fun before you know it. And that padding allowed me to be open and expressive with those without turning the audience off. Because you can't do 20 minutes of sad shit without giving them a little treat.
Right. Yes.
And sometimes I would even prep the audience. when I was working on Laugh After Death, I was running that ending and I would have to prep the audience. I would say, look, we're going to get dark here towards the end, but I need you to trust me. And, I would give them a little warning, heads up, whatever. And when I was working on this, when I felt them get uncomfortable, what I got in the habit of doing was telling them, and you'll see it in the special, it's let's get darker.
Yes.
And it's prepping them to know that it's going to be okay. And you trust me and we're going to be fine, but we're going to go a little deeper now. And so it was giving them call signs to let them know that like, it's going to get even worse. So I found like those little tricks keeps an audience engaged, keeps them interested, and lets them feel safe, if that's the word you want to use.
To me, I was surprised how I connected with that because, okay, like, losing your parents, I was like, okay, I know that day is going to come. So, and my dad's kind of sick now. It's like, okay. And that hit on a different, I was like, okay. And then the part that I wasn't really ready for that snuck up on me was the depression and the suicide part. Cause I was like, I said, this life ain't really turning out like I really kind of envisioned. And I thought, well, what's going to happen in the future? I said, I'm this age and I don't really have any money saved up and this and that and what I'm going to do. And I was like, oh, and I read through, I looked at the, the brochure, I looked at okay. And so it's like, I thought though, so you brought it up, I was like, good for you. And it's like, and I think that part when you mentioned about, and the counseling, and when you go, have you thought about it? Yeah. And then it's almost like, it was weird how you were trying to tell that counselor or whatever. Yeah, I kind of thought about it, or I thought about how I wanted to, and then they went a different way. You're like, really? That's kind of shitty. Here I am. Yeah. You get me to open my heart up, and then you're going to shut me down. And it's like, and I almost got mad. Like, yeah, they want you to do all this, and then you fucking do that, and then they pull the old Lucy with the football trick on you.
Yeah. That's how healthcare is here in America. You literally have to be dying before somebody's going to help you, and sometimes you got to wait in line to do that. and the mental health in America, what I was coming across was, especially being a dude from the Midwest, growing up in the 90s, like, you're not allowed to talk about your feelings. You're not allowed to feel a certain way or be expressive or whatever. And, I joke about it in the special too, where it's like, have you tried punching shit? Have you tried shooting it? Well, I don't know then, It's just that kind of walk it off mentality that we've grown up with has not, it's a broken system. How long do we have to keep ignoring this or keep pushing these feelings down, especially for men in this country, before we say it's okay to feel something? And that was the main thing that I was getting from audiences after the show when I started doing this material was, hey, we brought my brother out to the show. He's having a hard time. We didn't know it was going to be like this. Thank you so much for speaking out. And, I kept getting messages like that, which was similar to the messages I was getting on my first special, Laugh After Death, which was, we just lost my father. We just lost my mother. And, we came here to escape it, but here you are talking about it. And it made us feel even better about it because we felt less alone. And that's the feeling of depression, that isolation is so overwhelming. You feel like, oh, I'm the only one that feels like this. There's something wrong with me. There's, this is my life. I'm fucked up. And then when you scale out and you realize that everybody's a little fucked up, it makes you feel better, and it makes you feel less alone. And that's kind of the message that I was trying to get across too in this, was that, like, even if you feel like, even if at your worst right now, it's gonna get better. It has to get better, right? It can't get any fucking worse. Right. Wait and see.
Okay, so what's the normal then? Because in fact, I feel like everybody has a little fucked up. But what is a perceived normal? Is it a perception of what normal is that maybe the media is projecting that we're going, okay, this is normal, when underneath it we don't know, because what I'm thinking of now is that song by REM, Everybody Hurts, and that cannot be, that to me pinpoints it. Everybody hurts. Even the people you don't think they do in a certain way. They just don't show it.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like that old saying, and if you see somebody so attractive, you're like, point out the hottest person you know, and I will point out somebody who's tired of fucking them. It is everybody. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how happy you are, how in shape you are. Any of the things don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, right. I was in great shape and looked awesome, and I was satisfied. I had 4 abs and 2 dead parents. You know what I mean? Like, shit wasn't okay. So everybody does hurt. Everybody has something going on, but we're marketed to, in a way, especially in this country where we're built Ford tough and everybody's the Marlboro man, and you brush it off, and all those macho, that alpha mentality, where we're not allowed to let the curtain down a little bit and show you that not everybody has the white picket fence and the 3.5 kids and the and the family vacation every year and all these things that we're marketed to think that this is the American dream and this is normal and this is what you should be, or else you're not, you're below average. I grew up middle class and still am middle class, and my family was middle class, and that was the normal that I grew up in. And I feel like that idea of like everybody's going to college, we have 2 dogs and a white picket fence, all that stuff they market to us, that's not what life is. That's not the normal. The norm is below that, how I grew up, and so I feel like it comes down to marketing and that alpha mentality, that macho mentality that America has, that we're the best country in the fucking world.
Yeah.
And when you peel back that curtain and you start looking around, you're like, hey, there's some broken shit around. No, nothing to see. Yeah. We're the greatest. You're like, my buddy just, they had a baby. They had to pay $30,000. I thought, no. It's, we could fix some shit around here.
Yeah.
No, we're the greatest.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way also. I mean, I really do. It's like, we don't, to me, I always say my impression of the United States is every white man person in the United States is USA, USA, USA.
Yeah.
That's every white guy. Every white guy. America.
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. It's cult like, and then we're seeing that more and more in the last few years. That cult mentality, I saw a TikTok the other day that said the biggest red flag right now is the American flag, and I couldn't agree more.
That's a great one. Like, that's a great one.
Yeah.
But do you think that, like, I feel though like it's been better than times past. I feel like, we talk bad about this younger generation, whatever, but I think they have a little better grasp on things like now, where it's like, where sometimes people, of a certain age or my age, whatever, like, man, they're kind of soft. And I go, you know what? It's kind of cool in a way they're embracing this. I kind of like that. I like that newness. I like that they're saying, you know what? I'm not okay. Or, I have anxiety. I mean, granted, some of them are like, okay, you're kind of milking this. You need to man up a little bit. Yeah. But I welcome that more than the other. Like you said, there was a time you couldn't express any kind of feelings other than, like you said, that's perfect. Did you punch something? Did you go shoot something? I mean, that was the mentality of so long, but now do you feel it's a little better?
Oh, I'm loving the generation coming up behind me, and what I love most about them is they're tearing down these walls of traditionalism, right?
Yes.
So most of them aren't even homeowners; they're buying a van. Everybody under 25 lives in a fucking van.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting married these days. Religion is going down. So you have all of these things that our generation questioned, but still had to go through because our parents, our gatekeepers were like, "No, you have to get married because your brother got married." You're like, "Okay, I guess I'll get married." And then, you have to go to church because I had to go to church. And now my generation is becoming the gatekeepers, and the generation after me is saying, well, I don't really want to buy a house. And we're like, you can do that? You don't have to buy a house?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get married. You're like, well, don't get married then. Like, well, I want to do that. You're like, oh, dude, work from home. I don't give a shit. All the things that we were wanting to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. This generation's like, I'm just going to do, like, I'm not, I'm not going to do that. And we're like, oh man, that sounds great.
That's what I love about this special. You packed into 28 minutes to me. Man, I mean, you hit on so many topics perfectly that, I mean, it just, like I said, it stirred my soul. The part that you just mentioned it that I really want to talk to you about, and I didn't realize it, but it's made me question it, was I didn't know you were atheist, man. And I've always wanted to talk to somebody about that, because I was like, I can't say I'm full-fledged atheist, whatever, but I mean, for me, and I kind of use it as a joke, and it never works, whatever, because I think people are regimented in their thinking, but I always said, because, black people go to church more than anybody, and racially, I mean, 83% of African Americans go to church, and I've always wanted to ask them, has it ever really worked for us as a group? If you really think about it. I mean, as a group, for black people, has it ever really worked for us? Because, if you're working with a black woman where they always say, I'm too blessed to be stressed. And I'm like, really? I mean, is it really working for us? I mean, because if we were a football team, we'd be the Cleveland Browns. Will we not? I mean, we have great players, but we've never been a cohesive unit. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I always do that bit. I try that bit every time in Little Rock, and it always fails miserably. But it's like, but no one ever, like, they put up a wall and they don't want to hear reasoning or, like a different thought. And it's all I'm asking. Like a little, not even a debate, maybe a debate, but can it be a friendly debate? I mean, they get angry, like really, like I'm just asking you, like, how come black people can't be atheists? I mean, and if they are, they feel shunned. Like some are even afraid. It's almost like the white version of saying, Mom, I got a black boyfriend. I think black people are afraid of going, hey, I really don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I feel. So, like, for you, were you always like that? Or did that come about through trauma or whatever?
It was one of the things where, like, I grew up in the Midwest, and so everybody's religious there,
right?
And you just kind of have to pick your team and move forward. And so we were Baptist, but we were holiday Baptist, so we would go to church on Easter and Christmas, whenever the Lord was really making his list. So we would do that. So, and then as I got older, other kids were really involved in church, some of them and all that stuff. And I never really understood it, and then as I got older, I just got more far and away from me, and I was around less and less people that were kind of involved in those kind of activities. So it never really was on my mind or thinking about it. And then later in life, it was one of those ideas where it just became almost funny in a way, to be like, oh, you think there's somebody up there, like there's a manager upstairs, like, just, like checking, like watching, like everything. Yeah. Oh, okay, sure, that's happening. And so, and the older I got, and the more freedom I had, of course, being able to say that to folks, and not in a shitty way. I even talk about it in the special. I'm fascinated by religion. I love seeing how other people worship and the cultures, but that's more about people than it is about the religion itself.
Right.
And doing those jokes are not easy. And what you were talking about, like, whenever I try these jokes, it doesn't work. And the religion jokes are the hardest jokes I've had to work on in my career. The suicide stuff, the grief, the depression, all of that was way easier to talk about, and people had way more open minds than ever with the religion. Crowds would shut down on me.
Yes.
I had a lady in Texas, yelling out at me, "You need Jesus. You don't need therapy. You need Jesus. Jesus will set you right." And I said, and to your point, I said, can I just run an idea by you? Can we just have a conversation real quick, and then I'll leave it alone? And she goes, of course. And I said, okay. And it's a full house, by the way. She's like third row.
Yeah.
And I go, imagine all that power and all that energy that you're just releasing into the sky. Imagine what would happen if you would point that inward into yourself. And you would be filled with all this love and joy, and it would overspill. You would have so much of it, and you could do great things for your family and your community, and you could really make a change in your life and in your community and your family's life, because all that love and all that energy would just be spilling over you, because you're pouring it inside yourself. But instead, you're giving it away. You're giving all that power away. I just want you to realize how powerful you are and the change that you could actually make in yourself, in your family, and in your community. And she goes, nope, you need Jesus. All right.
There's no other, you can't talk to them.
There's no other.
I mean,
there's no other way.
You can't. But you know what? You got to come in. You know what I like to do if they're white and then they have that kind of racial thing. I like to come in with a black angle. Like, really? So you think nope? And they don't want to hear about it. Well, Jesus was Middle Eastern. I don't want to hear about it. He's white. I mean, they just don't. There's no other point of view. I mean,
There's no other. Yeah.
It's my like I don't know if I can go full fledged atheist, but I trust. But the atheism fascinates me because I go, and I'm not afraid to. Like I went to go see the movie All Hail Satan. And the thing about that, it's called All Hail Satan, and it's funny because in the Satanic Bible, right, in the Ten Commandments of the Satanic Bible, one of their things is don't harm children, and like the other Bible, they can't really say that, you know what I mean? And it's like you don't want to bring that up to them, but it's the truth. I mean, granted, there's some other stuff, but there's a thin line between love and hate. There's a thin line between atheism and Satan. So it's like, say if you're really looking at Satanism, it really isn't as like they portray it to be with the sacrifice and all that stuff. I mean, you got to look into it. And I think people are afraid to, but like you said, religion does fascinate me but the thing about that is, I don't know if you agree with it, is it centers on faith, and faith is the one thing that's the one center of all religion. And so I use that as like books like The Secret. Help Me in Secret, Project 369. That's another book that I love. And it's like you release positive energy out into the world, and a lot of positivity gets that vibration going.
And I was just going to say, I'm an atheist, but I believe in prayer, which always throws people for a loop. And but it's not the idea of praying to God and God's answering again, like he's the manager. You know what I mean? Like I'm not sending comment cards up to him.
Yeah.
But what I believe in is what you just touched on, is that energy. And when you sync up a room full of people, if you have a church full of 100 to 200 people and they're all focusing on one thing and they're all focusing that energy on, fixing little Timmy's leg or whatever the fuck, it's probably going to do something because you're, again, that power that we hold within ourselves, when you point it towards something or when you collect it and point it towards, it's like the Care Bears. You gotta you point that energy towards something and it does something. You know what I mean? Yes. So it's not the idea that we're praying to God and God is like going over his email. That's what Gmail is, right? God's email. So he's on his Gmail and he's like, well, I got a message about little Timmy's leg. Let me, read. And then, that doesn't happen. Yeah. But if you have 200 people focusing and really, almost in a meditative state, bringing their powers and their thoughts and their love together and pointing it at something, an actual action happening, I believe in that.
Yes,
and that's
it gets the positive vibrations, and you can actually record that vibration. You feel that vibration. It's like when somebody. I remember one time, I was living in L.A. There's a car parked right in front of our house, and as soon as those guys got out, I got this bad feeling that came over me, and those guys ended up shooting these guys. I mean, they didn't kill. They just went kind of like not a drive by, but they came out and shot those guys. But I had that feeling.
You pull up on your friends, you're like, "Hey, I got you."
You know what I mean? But but you feel that vibration. So you feel a negative and a positive. Yeah. So if everybody is in a positive state, you know what I mean? It transfers out to the universe and it gets a positive vibration going. And to me, that's what church is like. Like you said, all that prayer is going to fix little Timmy's leg. You know what I mean? If you got all those you put out on Facebook, I need my prayer warriors. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what that is. It's just a lot of positive vibration, but they don't want to hear that.
No.
They don't want to hear
it's got to be, it's God or bust. And you're like, all right, man, whatever.
Yeah, that's funny.
Again, that lady was just so stuck on the idea, didn't want to hear another option at all, and it was so funny. Nope, you need Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, whatever. In a way, do you find in a way that's kind of frustrating that that's not a really big part of your act, which is weird. Like, I wanted you to go deeper into that, man. I really wanted to, because I was really fascinated on that. Like, the depression hit me harder than I thought it was going to. That, and you talk about suicide, that hit me harder than I thought. That snuck up on me like a thief in the night. Like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that. But then I was really fascinated by and when you talked about being an atheist, and that's when I was like, oh, I really want to talk to you about that. That really, really, really gets me going. It really does, man. Because we basically come from the same place, in the Midwest. You know what I mean? So.
Right.
And it's beaten into you. I'm literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I there was a joke in there that I took out that was that I stopped doing. It was just like, This is true. They dated this all the way back to the idea of, cavemen would take pieces of their great warriors when they would die, or big animals when they would kill them, like lions and bears and these mammoths. Like they would after they killed them, or a great warrior would die, they would cut up their bodies and they would drink some of the blood, and they would eat pieces of them, because they thought that a piece of a great warrior or a great big animal like that would give them the strength and the power of whatever had just passed on.
Right.
And that's where the idea stems from, of drinking the blood of Christ and eating his body, because it gives you the power of Christ and all this stuff, which is scientific proof that Christians are just as dumb as fucking cavemen.
Oh man, I wish you would have left that.
But I can't see, and again, it's too harsh. So I take.
I love that.
So doing that joke in Texas was really, really difficult. And so I took it out altogether, because again, in comedy, you want people to come together, and the idea of all of us having, again, a positive interaction and a positive debate. Right. So like, it's easy to just be like, hey, you're fucking dumb and you're fucking dumb. You just go back and forth for hours. But to actually have an engaging conversation with somebody and not turn them off was the goal. And that, especially when it talks about religion, because again, they put up their walls, they know what they know, and they usually are a little too stubborn to change that mentality. So something like that turns them off, and immediately, whatever. So I like to keep the dialogue open and friendly and all that stuff.
Right. And how long did it take you to get to that point? I mean, were there nights where like, okay, this isn't going well, I'm gonna go back into the old shtick? I mean, did it ever get to that point where, because always we see the finished product. We don't see the pizza being made. Like, were there nights where you go, oh boy, okay, I got to go back and go back to the lab and do this and blah. And then, how long did it take to get to that point?
There were, what's interesting is I heard this podcast with Chappelle and Bill Burr and Kevin Hart, and Bill was talking about coming up in Boston and New York. And this is just recently. This is about 6 months ago I heard this.
Yeah.
And Bill was talking about coming up in Boston and New York, and he was killing in the main rooms, but he was getting shit from like Rich Voss and Patrice O'Neill and about not going to the urban rooms or the city rooms and doing comedy because, he was too scared or whatever. So he wasn't a real comic or whatever. And so Bill took that as a challenge, and Bill was like, okay, you want me to go fucking kill in these urban rooms? You got it. And so Bill would start going to those urban rooms, the main rooms, and he would kill in both and just absolutely destroy him. He became undeniable.
Yeah.
And that way it would show that, like, no, I am a real fucking comic. Like, it's, this is for everybody. And Chappelle chimed in and he was like, I love that idea, because when you start doing comedy, your idea of it is it's for everybody. But then you get stuck working the mainstream rooms, or you get stuck in a certain, whatever circuit that you're in, and you don't branch out. A lot of comics don't branch out, but comedy needs to be for everybody. And so that hit me in a different way of like, okay, this material about suicide and depression and religion and all these things, that needs to be for everybody. I can't just cater to my base, to the people that are, on the mental health, awareness side and all of those things. It's easy to cater to them, but it needs to hit people that aren't thinking about that. It needs to hit people that are uncomfortable with talking about religion. It needs to hit people that are uncomfortable about depression and these kind of talk. Like, how do I make it for everybody? And I was doing a show out here in Ventura one night, and there was guys in some trucker hats and flannels and all that sitting in the back. And I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna do the big clothes tonight, like I'll do something else. And I was going to chicken out. And I thought about that conversation, and I thought, no, it needs to be for everybody. And I did it that night. I did all the jokes, and they came up afterwards and they were like, man, I've been really struggling, and I'm so glad you talked about that. Cool. And one guy lost his brother to suicide, and he was talking to me about it. And so when you have those nights when you don't want to do it, those are the nights you should definitely fucking do it.
Yes.
you got to get out of that. You got to break that habit. You got to get out of your shell, because again, in that silence or in that uncomfortability, that's where real growth is. And that's where all the good shit is.
Yes.
Again, you can fucking do cat jokes all night long and kill anybody. Like, open micers kill, but are you connecting with an audience?
Yes.
And how are you connecting with them?
Okay. Yeah. Talking again, talk about technical difficulties, but back again about connecting with the audience. And that's what and that's why you had more balls than me, man. And like, I feel like I want to, and I want that laugh, and I can't get that laugh. I don't know how far I can go without, but basically not trusting myself. You know what I mean? And that's the part that I struggle with, is trusting myself.
It's like when you're working on when comics ask me about new material, new jokes, when you're working on those, the advice I always give is to keep a parachute in your pocket. You know what I mean? So like, you have to have a joke that works under any circumstance. And it's got to be quick and fast, and it hits. And it hits on every crowd. It doesn't matter if they're old, young, whatever, race. It doesn't matter. Like, you have to have a bulletproof joke. Everybody has one. You keep that in your fucking pocket. And then you do all your new stuff. And if you're really fucking bombing, you take that joke out and you pull the chute. It's like that when you're talking about the uncomfortable stuff. You dig deeper, you share your stuff. And if you're really feeling like you need to get the fuck out of there, fucking pull your chute and get it out of there. But, and again, like I really, and it's not, I will say this, it's not for everybody. It's not easy to start doing and start talking about those things. It's definitely not. And you have to be really comfortable and silence the first few times you do it. But you have to keep your eye on the payoff and realize that, it's important what you're saying, and it's part of you, and it's part of what you want to be talking about. And for me, that was the major thing, was like, I'm so done with the small talk kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, isn't toast weird? Like, I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the real stuff. And that's not for everybody, and that's okay. But for me, I was done with those other jokes, and I wanted to get more into storytelling and get more into my story. And the whole hour is not, I recorded an hour that night, and I'm only sharing the last half of it. The first half is big energy stories, about going to Six Flags on Mother's Day with my girlfriend and her daughter, and, all the stuff that that's a big, like 10 or 12-minute piece, and stuff like that. So there's other things there that I do that I enjoy. And then I it's almost like a little for them, a little for me,
Yeah.
And so, so the crowd's not going there and just getting bummed out every night. We're having fun. It's a good show. And then we get real.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too.
Now, when you're like, do you still struggle with the passing of your parents? And do you still struggle with that every day?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a quote that I love that I heard, that is, it doesn't hurt any less. It hurts less often. And that really hits me, is, there are still some mornings that I wake up and I've had dreams of my mother and I talking or being with her or whatever. And then I wake up and I feel like, I need to call her. I haven't talked to her in a long time. And I have to remind myself, she's gone. I can't do that. And that's a very real feeling, and it hurts just as much in that moment, realizing, like, reminding myself that she's no longer here. It hurts just as hard and just as deep when I found out the first time that she wasn't here. And, but it's spread out. It's not happening every morning. It's not even happening once a month, I would say. But it does happen. And when it does, it hits me just as hard.
How was it, man? How hard was it when you doing comedy? Say after it initially first happened, like, how did you take a break, and how did you get through it?
When Wayne passed, my stepfather, I lost Wayne, and then a year later, I lost my mother. So I lost both of them back to back. But when I lost Wayne, I took 2 weeks off tour to be with my mom and to just kind of be with myself, and then I went down to North Carolina and started doing shows again. And when Mom passed, I did the same thing. I took 2 weeks off and then I went right back on tour. And a matter of fact, when Mom passed, I was flying out to do shows, flying back to Ohio to clean out her house, and the house that I lived in since I was 11 years old, and going through all those boxes and memories and photos and everything during the week, and then flying out on a Thursday or Friday to Seattle or wherever to do a weekend full of shows, and then coming back on Monday to go through all her stuff.
Now, were you writing jokes about that, or are you just doing your same act or whatever, and you just have to kind of block it away, or what was that process like?
With Wayne, I noticed different when I first started doing shows. I had Thursday, Friday, Saturday shows, and Thursday and Friday I did jokes about Wayne as if he were still alive and well, and I didn't change one word. Mm-hmm. And I remember feeling like I was lying to the audience, like I was cheating them or deceiving them, you know what I mean? Because I just wasn't being honest.
Yeah.
And so Saturday night I switched things up and I started talking about Wayne in past tense. And then I shared with the audience just briefly after the big, I had like 4 or 5 jokes about Wayne, and I would share, Wayne just passed, and and then I would move on. And then after that show, those shows on Saturday night, this old man came up to me after the show, gave me a great big hug, and he told me how much he loved the show, and he smelled just like Wayne. And Wayne had old white guy cologne, but it was old white guy cologne that only he wore, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'd never smelled another old white dude that smelled like him. And I took it as, again, not being a religious person, but I believe in, again, energies and signs and all that stuff. And so I took it as a sign of being like, okay, this is, I'm onto something. I need to be more honest on stage, and I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm hurting or that Wayne's passed or whatever. This is a new leaf for me. And so when Mom passed, it took me a little bit more time to process, and I found myself abusing marijuana. I was high. Unless I was asleep, I was fucking baked, and I was just numb. And I was like that for probably 10 months. I was just constantly high. It's so much to the fact that in order for me to process grief, I would only process it in my sleep when I was sobering up. So I would wake up at 5 a.m. in a complete crying, and I mean bawling my eyes out, not just I woke up sad. Yeah. I mean in the middle of a hardcore, tears rolling down my face, bawling my eyes out, cry, because that was the only time my mind would sober up and process what was happening was in my sleep, when I didn't have access to keep getting high and to keep, numbing myself. So that took a while. And, and I think I burned some bridges that way that I don't, you can't prove, but there are certain clubs that I don't work anymore. I don't get as much work from, and this and that, because I was just on autopilot for almost a year. But I wasn't bad or being corrupt or anything. I wasn't, I was just zoned out, and I was just on. I was still doing well, but just I wasn't writing anything new. I wasn't really excited to be there. I wasn't a dick or anything, but I just wasn't. Hey, what's going on? Yeah. It was just come in, do the show, get out of there, go back to the hotel, get high, go to bed.
But did you explain that to them? Did you explain it to the clubs? Say, hey, I'm kind of going through something, or this and that, or you just came in
No, I didn't want to shake at the time. It was 2 things. I didn't really know how bad I was, because when you're in it, you're in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the gift of hindsight then. And then also I didn't want to shake the boat. You know what I mean? You know how it is. Work is so fickle that you're afraid to, you're over tipping waitresses. You're doing whatever you can. You're just happy to be there.
Yeah.
And that's how I'd always operated. So for me to be able to say something or to speak up, I thought, I would ruin my relationship with them, or they wouldn't work me again or something like that. Even when Wayne passed, I was working Brad Garrett's club, and I found out midweek, and I didn't say anything to Brad. I didn't say anything to the staff. It was my first time working with Brad, being there and all that.
Yeah.
And I just finished my week, had great shows. We went out for New Year's, the whole deal. I didn't say one word to it. And then went home immediately and went to Wayne's funeral and all that stuff. Or I went to go see Wayne in the hospital and all that. So, so even in those moments where I thought Wayne was going to pass any minute, I still kept my head down and just did the work. Cause I didn't want to rock the boat.
Wow. When did you realize, okay, fuck it, I need help?
Oh man, it was, I had reached out for therapy, and again, I talk about it like that's all true. It took them 2.5 months for them to find somebody for me. And
I could tell that was true. I could tell the way you said that. I knew it was. Yeah.
It was rough finding help. And then, because you get to a point where like, I should tell somebody, and then you do, and they're like, please hold. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So I delved really deep into self-care. I started reading books, again, it was like everything else in my life. I'm like, fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah. Yes.
And, I've never been one to wait for gatekeepers. And so I'm like, well, it looks like I'm doing it myself. So I delved, I started going on bike rides and hiking and getting out in nature and getting out there and reading books and meditating and doing all that stuff before getting into therapy. But there were moments where, even my best friend, we talked about it and back in, again, with hindsight, he's like, I didn't know how bad you were. He's like, I thought you were fucking with me. And he's like, I thought you were just too lazy to get out of bed or this or that. I was like, no, I was telling you pretty openly that I wanted to fucking die. And he's like, yeah, I thought you were just fucking around. Yeah. I was like, no, man, really wanted out this bitch. Really was trying to peace out, dude. And, again, I found myself when I was touring, doing the thing that I love and doing the thing that I've done, I've done my whole life and spent my life doing. Once that no longer became exciting and it was struggling to get out of bed just to shower, to go do a show and go right back to bed. Like it was then that I was like, okay, I need to really, really fucking buckle down and get some help.
Did it feel like when you, during that period, like, was it hard to wake up when you did you feel like a weight on your chest? I mean, did you feel like, fuck, I don't want to, did you feel like you woke up in the darkness?
Yeah. It was, just so much, just no energy to do anything and no give a fuck at all, and I still have those days, it comes and goes. I had a woman in Texas come up to me after my show and she goes, I'm glad you got over that depression thing. like it was the flu. Yep, I beat it.
COVID and depression. Yeah.
That's what a lot of people don't realize too, is with depression, it comes and goes. And I think with depression and grief and all of these things that we're talking about, I don't think you ever truly beat it. Yeah. I think you learn to live with it and you learn how to manage it and you suppress it and you learn more about yourself and about it. Whether it be grief or depression or whatever, and you learn how to maintain with it. You learn how to move forward with it. And again, I talk about this in my book. It's the weight that you're carrying, right? And you have to decide how much you want to carry and what's important. What do you need? what can you get rid of, and what can you let go of. And the more weight that you let go of, the easier it's going to be to move forward in life. And I look at grief and depression and all those things and those feelings that I was having. I look at those as bags, and you can only take so many with you. And it's going to be uncomfortable if you have 10 bags of fucking luggage, right? And you're trying to carry it all around. So let some of those go. Let some of those things go that you can't change. And because you're going to have guilt, grief's best friend is guilt. You know, you always have that look back of, did I do enough? Was I there for them? When they needed me, what did I show up? What could I have done better? What could I, you have all of those thoughts. And I have all those with my mother and with Wayne, and you have to choose, what am I going to carry with me, and what can I let go of?
Man, to be able to have to go out there and make people laugh and try to, because people look at us as the one, as we're almost their therapy. And, but you're sitting there, I'm sure, just heart-wrenched and just fucking, you're dying inside on stage, and but you realize this is your job. Our job is to make you feel good. Our job is to make you leave and go, hey man, thanks. And you just going, okay, and they don't realize you're fucking hard. I mean, you're falling apart inside. That has got to be the hardest fucking thing in the world to do, man. I mean, because I've had, the typical breakup. You break up before you go on stage. Like, you fucking serious? You go through that shit, but I can't imagine this shit, man. I mean, you had it all within a certain amount of time. I mean, you said it with your Wayne and your mom. I think your grandma. What was the time period of everybody passing in your life?
I've been to 15 funerals in the past 5 years.
15.
And grief for me started really young. I lost my grandfather when I was 10. I lost my Uncle Mike a year after that. And then I lost my father a year after that. So that 10 to 12 area is real dark for me anyway. I lost all these male figures in my life. And there was just pretty much my mom and my grandmother raising me and taking care of me. And then Wayne came into the picture when I was 15, and he was great. And then, flash forward to, I lost Wayne when I was 30, mom when I was 31, and then grandma just last year. And grandma's the one, we thought we were going to lose way before that, and so when I would go home to visit, I would usually spend more time with grandma, or make sure I saw her and spend time with her, thinking that she was going to be the first to go, and it was the opposite. She was the last to go, and it was just and again, she's pretty much like the last pillar to fall in my childhood of like who raised me and who was there for me and that kind of stuff. So
the way you put, and I don't want to ruin it for you, because we're going to release this. This comes out next week. I told you I want to release this the night before his special drops. If that's okay, Wyatt. Yeah. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but god damn, man, the way you book in that.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
Thank you.
No, it was. It was good. Told you, motherfucker. That thing hit me hard. I told you. God damn you. God damn you. I fucking hate you now. Fucking fuck. Fuck.
There was one night I got caught up in there when I was building the last special. There was the big ending, and I talk about laying in your mess. And I was running that set. I had to run it every night before we recorded it. So I ran it 5 nights in a row. I've never done that closer that many times. I would pick and choose crowds back in the day when I felt like they needed to hear it or when I liked them and stuff. And so I had to run it every night, and I was getting caught up in all those emotions, and I never had exposed myself to it that much. and one of those nights I riffed about that idea of laying in your mess and how we're trained to think that you have to get right back up and you have to get back on the horse and all the things. I think that's wrong. I think you have to lay in your mess. I think you have to really look at the damage around you before you can stand up and move forward. I came off stage that night and I just locked myself in the green room and just bawled my eyes out. And that was early show Saturday. So I had to go right back on and do it all over again, in an hour whenever they cleared all the chicken fingers out.
Yeah.
So,
God damn.
So it's not easy to talk about, and you get caught up in it. And it is, it is, the material is material until it's really close to you, and doing talking about grandma and talking about mom in these ways, it took a lot out of me to do, but I felt like it was important again, so people can see it and connect to it and not feel like they're the only ones that's hurting.
Fuck, man, that shit was there. Like I said, man, that shit, it hit me, man. I mean, fucking harder than I thought I was going to. I was like, okay, let me watch. So when I do talk, I want to, talk on it. And I was like, God damn you. And just talking about it just now. It's like, so I would finish on a high. I'm like, so where do you go from here now? Like, what do you do? I mean, how you feeling now? Where you going from here? How's your mental, everything? How are you?
Yeah, everything's great. You know what I mean? Like it's, I'm back in therapy. I'm doing all the stuff. I'm back on tour, and I'm trying to do more get more into storytelling for the next chapter of my career. And so I would like to build a show that is, sharing stories out of my book and mixed with traditional stand-up. And so it'd be like a hybrid of, it'll be more kind of like a one-man show and less like stand-up, and trying to get out of the club scene and get into theater spaces and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where I see things going, for me at least, is trying to get into that more storytelling vibe in a major way, in a bigger way.
Beautiful, man. God damn. I mean, if you guys get a chance, please. It's on me on YouTube, right? YouTube?
Yeah. Yep. I'm just putting it out on YouTube, and you can also check out, I just put up a series called Monsters. I just put it up in February. And it kind of goes hand in hand with this, where I took a handful of comics. There's 5 episodes. I shot a live show of them on stage, and then I sit down with them individually, one-on-one in a studio, and we talk about the trauma that's hiding behind their punchlines. And each episode is themed to the comic. And so it cuts back and forth between them killing on stage and then us talking, having a one-on-one intimate conversation, and then killing, and then studio, killing, studio. And each episode is themed with one's about addiction, one's about grief, one's about body positivity, family. So they're all there, and they're streaming on YouTube right now, and it's called Monsters. And I'm gearing up for season 2 of that with 5 other comics. And so it was a project I really loved, really was passionate about. And I think you always hear again that comics are broken, and you have all these stories, but we find out too late. It's always usually after they pass that they're like, he had a real problem with, and you're like, well, why didn't anybody talk about it? And and you listen to Joe Rogan for 4 hours just to hear Bill Burr talk about his mean dad for 9 minutes. And I'm like, why aren't we just talking about the mean dad for a little while? So that was kind of the idea behind Monsters. And so that's what it does. It introduces you to a comic and lets you see their material, and then also who they really are, and the trauma that's kind of hiding behind those punchlines.
Fucking brilliant, Mike. That's, man, great. I mean, that is great. I love. Wait and see. If you guys got to see, you got to see. Wait and see. And maybe it's
wait and see.
Maybe it's just me. I almost wanted you to stop, almost like Chappelle style. I think you said temporary. You said something, and you stuck there. I go, I wanted to end there, but then how you ended it was like perfect. Like I said, that whole thing was just, I mean, it's going to speak to you. Like I said, man, this motherfucker gets in your soul and he stirs it around. And if you don't feel anything from this, hey, man, if you don't feel anything from this, then you are the aliens that we talk about that have invaded this planet. That's what I feel. If you don't feel anything from this, man, I don't think you're from this earth. Michael Malone, goddamn, man, it's good to see you. You've always, man, I've always respected you, but now, man, you're just at another level as far as, digging deep within that reservoir of life and emotions and feeling. And you got it, man. It's like that from Indiana Jones when he reaches in that soul and takes out the heart. That's where you're at, bro. That's where your comedy's at, and it hits deep, and it's always funny, and it's good, and it hits the heart. So, man, Mike, much success to you, brother. And I love this special. God bless you, brother. I mean it.
Thank you so much.
No,
so good seeing you, man.
Great seeing you.
I can't wait to see you in real life.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I really do, man. I mean that. Look forward to it. Thank you so much for your time, Michael Malone. You are the man, bro. Man, you look good. Thank you so much. Keep your mentals up, my man. Thank you so much. Watch for Tales from a Gemini. I'm BT. You know how we say about this time. You know the word. Peace.